Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and welcome to another fabulous episode of A Woman's Prerogative. Hello to all of our friends across the world, and a special hello to our friends at E360 TV. Today on A Woman's Prerogative, we're going to be talking about the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. What does it mean? We're going to get into it. Joining me is the star of our show. Her name is Mariska Dupria, and she's formerly from New Zealand and currently in Australia. And as I always love to say, she is a day ahead and a season ahead, and she's a lot of brain cells ahead of me right now. So let's welcome her to the program and find out what she's been up to. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I am good, thank you. And I am so glad that your brain cells has the timing as well as the place in order this time around.
Yes, absolutely. So we can tell by the way that we're dressed. I'm wearing a heavier jacket because we are in winter, and you are wearing something lightweight because you are in summer. So that always amazes me. And when people don't have the opportunity to travel the world, you don't actually get to experience all the different time zones, which is really pretty cool.
That is very, very true. We have so many different experiences, at least in Australia and in the US. We have summer and winter and autumn and spring. But there's some places in the world that only has, well, they think they have winter, but it's not really winter because they're on the equator, typically very hot. And then there's other places that has normally winter all the time. Like
Absolutely. Well, what I can share is that it's always red hot right here on A Woman's Prerogative. So before we dive into our topic today about standards, would you please share with our audience who's joining us for the first time or maybe even coming back, how do you help people? What does that look like? And who's a great client for you?
So how I help and how that looks like is I work within the leadership development space. So if you think about becoming a leader, you might be a new leader stepping into that leadership space and not quite sure about how this works yet and trying to figure out how to get your team to do stuff instead of you doing the things and feeling that's actually a lot easier than giving things to the team. That's where I can help. That's the one place I can help. The other place is also where we step into higher leadership roles. It changes, it evolves. There's other things that we need to take into consideration and think about, and ways of interacting and integrating and taking our bigger teams along with us. So that's the second place where I can help. And I do this through trainings, and I also do this through coaching, where we integrate the learnings, because I know, like me, you guys have access to loads and loads and loads and loads of podcasts. We also have one on USA Global TV and Radio where I speak specifically about leadership. And even though we have all that knowledge in our heads, it doesn't always sink into our visceral experiences. So that's where coaching comes in, and where we can help to make it more alive for ourselves. And that is places where I help out within my leadership space itself, been a leader almost whole life myself. So there's different tips, tricks, and potentially experiments that we can get up to.
Ooh, inquiring minds want to know.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's delve into the topic today. So, to me, when someone says the standard you walk past is the standard you accept, this means to me that whatever behavior, however you're being treated, whatever the performance level is, whatever your surroundings are, and you do nothing about it, that becomes your new normal. And I really feel like this applies in every area, whether it's relationships or business or leadership or self-discipline. When you walk around something and you pretend it doesn't exist, that's your new normal because you didn't do anything about it. What are your thoughts about what I just shared?
I agree. So for me, when I read, and yes, Dr. Jacalyn didn't tell me up front that this is going to be our topic. So when I read our topic, this time, my brain automatically went to my engineering and project management experience, because in that space, when we have a project that we are running, or even safety, if you think about your safety procedures and certain things that we need to be doing but don't always do, if we as leaders walk past that, and we look at it, but we don't do anything about it. We don't address the person. We don't address the situation. And it doesn't necessarily mean we need to discipline. We do need to let them know that this isn't what we actually require, and also what it is that we require. So setting that expectation clearly. If we don't do that, it is as stated in the title. We are accepting that standard. And next time, like all human beings, we want to take the path of least resistance, right? So if we can do less and achieve more and take shortcuts of some form of short, then that's what's going to happen, which also means we might bend the standard rules. We might shave corners off of some sorts. And we might get ourselves into big trouble if we continue doing that. So that's what came up for me, Dr. Jacalyn, when I read the title. And I can see how this will definitely also apply to our relationships, boundaries that we set, conversations that we might have, and in all other areas of life. So I can't wait to explore this a bit more.
Well, Mariska, both of us work with people. We have clients and we help them in many ways. And one of the things that I will hear quite often is that someone's really tired of something. They're sick and tired of something, yet they don't want to do anything about it, or they wish it would just go away. They wish they could just go to sleep and wake up and it would all be gone. And my mother used to talk about having a magic wand. She would say that all the time. If only I had a magic wand that I could make it all go away. And from a fairy tale perspective, when we're children, that's kind of nice, right? Just have a magic wand and everything will go away. But we know that it takes work. So my question for you is, when someone is truly unhappy with their circumstances, whether it's, let's say, their living conditions, or even the way they take care of themselves or their relationships, and they literally decide to bury their head in the sand and do nothing, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, what's going to happen is nothing's going to change. I mean, if we don't change something, nothing will change. We will just stay at status quo. And the big thing, I think for me, the thing that comes to mind is our systems, right? It doesn't matter whether you think about yourself, your body, your brain as a system, or systems in general on the planet. We all want to conserve energy. So we don't want to spend energy. It's very expensive to get hold of the energy, and then we don't want to spend it, right? So we want to do as little as possible to get as big as possible of a reward for it. And that is why our brain typically forms habits. So if you think about writing your name, right, with your dominant hand. So just take your pen and write your name in cursive with your dominant hand. So once you've done that, transfer the pen to the other hand. And now write your name in cursive with your non-dominant hand. Right. So if you evaluate those two experiences, which one was the easy one? The dominant hand. Which one was the really difficult one? You most probably had to think about it and concentrate a lot. The non-dominant hand. It's because our brain already has a pathway that makes it easy for us, so we are not spending a lot of energy. And that is why it formed the pathway. You had to spend more energy on that when you were little, right? But now the pathway's done, so you don't have to really think about it. And you have spent years and years and years writing your name without really having to spend a lot of energy. Now, if we are in situations or have patterns that come up regularly, it is most probably because we have built a nice highway in our brain that keeps us on that path. And if you want to change it, it becomes energy expensive. So we struggle a bit to do that because the system wants to be in equilibrium where it doesn't have to spend a lot of energy. And that, in all likelihood, is why we feel stuck. So, Dr. Jacalyn, when you feel stuck, how do you get yourself out of it?
It's so interesting because I shared this before, but today is day 33 that I haven't had any sugar or alcohol. And I've had so many crazy things come up during the last 33 days that at any point I could have been like, you know what? I really need a drink or I want a cookie, but I didn't go for either one of them. So what I do is I take a deep breath. I say to myself, whatever it is, it's most likely going to be temporary. What is the solution? And so many times people can't do that because they get so emotionally overwhelmed that they just can't even think. And so what happens is we fall into these patterns, and the patterns can be either you're sobbing, you're playing the victim, you're screaming and yelling, and it's part of who you are. It's part of what you do on a regular basis. And if you were to ask someone in your life, they would say, oh yeah, she loves to cry. She loves to scream. He walks out of the room, right? Everyone has certain patterns. So for me, I like to address it by finding what the solution is. And that doesn't mean that the solution is always readily available. But I feel like from my experience as a coach and working with people over the years, people will turn to something for comfort as opposed to putting their energy into getting something done. So if you think about it, I know for me, I've worked out for most of my life. And so sometimes I was working out maybe 4 or 5 hours a day because I was just using the workouts to get rid of stress or maybe even just hiding in the workouts. And so that's what we do. We find something, anything to do to take our mind off of what it is that needs to be done. And I'll give a basic example. Somebody shared with me recently that the garage in this person's house really needed to be cleaned out. And this person just kept putting it off, literally putting it off for months and maybe even a year. But it was always in the back of this person's mind. But yet he would go into the garage and see that it was in a state of disarray and just be like, you know what, this is the new normal. This is what we're going to accept. And so once that happens, the likelihood of continued dysfunction in other areas is probably going to get higher because we've taken our standards and we've just kind of like just shifted them. But I do think, and I'd love you to comment on this, that wherever we put our attention becomes our priority.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that, because even if I think about in terms of business, again, right? We typically in business have stuff like KPIs, key performance indicators. So what is a KPI? It's basically a thing that keeps our attention to that specific point. Now, there's ways of setting them up where they can actually work and we get the behaviors that we want. And then there's other times where we set them up and they're not very functional. So that's not what I want to discuss, but it is really around what is that standard that we have set for ourselves, right? And how are we implementing that for ourselves in our own lives? And when it is our standard, so if it's my standard, I don't expect other people to now all of a sudden miraculously abide by it. That's not going to happen, right? It's my standard. It's not their standard. So I need to decide, where do I draw the line? What for me, with this standard, how flexible am I? Is this something that is an absolute no-go? And if somebody's going to cross that line, then forget it, not even talking to you anymore, which is quite severe. Or is it very, 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 very permeable and flexible? And it doesn't actually look like there is anything, which only means I get frustrated to no end. So when you think about people pleasers, for example, people that has a tendency to want to please others all the time, and they don't take their own needs and value into consideration, typically boundaries for them are very permeable. They don't have rigid boundaries. They have very, very flexible boundaries, or sometimes not boundaries at all. Whereas you get other cases where a person can be very stubborn. And for that person, that boundary might be very, very rigid, but it's still their boundary, right? We can choose our own boundaries. And that's, for me, that's always the fun of it. The standards, that's what this sentence say. The standards, you, not someone else, you are setting, right? So it's not somebody else's, it's yours. And the ones that you walk past are the ones that you then accept. And to me, if we pay attention to things, that's really important to us, right? That's something that came into our awareness field for a reason. And we need to start paying attention to them so that we can see, what is it that's working? What is it that's not working? And all boundaries or all standards doesn't necessarily need to be the most rigid on the planet or the highest on the planet. You can decide where your standard is going to be, which also means you decide what you are walking past and what you are not. And Dr. Jacalyn, to the point of the person in the garage situation where they had a situationship with cleaning their garage, for me, it's occupying brain space. I mean, it is occupying physical space that you need to clean, but it is also occupying brain space because now you're forever thinking about it and you're wondering about it and it's annoying you to no end. So it has emotional impact as well. Whereas if I just go and I clean it out, it feels so much better. I can just feel how a clean garage will feel like. And that's a good feeling. So I'm on your team of just work out how to sort it out and just get it sorted out.
Get it sorted. See it, say it's sorted. That's what they say on the subway in London. So what I'd like to talk about, when you think about mental capacity and how much we actually have space for, there are many times when we, especially women in business, we don't say anything because if we say something to another person, that's going to take a lot of time and space that we don't necessarily have because we're running businesses, we're meeting with clients, whatever the case might be. But what ends up happening more times than not is that we secretly become very resentful. We're resentful because we're witnessing behavior that we actually detest, but yet we don't speak up or say anything because we don't want to go down that path. And what it reminds me of is when you think about the expression skeletons in the closet, I envision this like closet, and then if you open the closet, they're all going to come falling out and you're going to have to go down memory lane from now until the beginning of time. And that takes a lot of energy and time. So I know for me, I am one of those people where I will not take us back to the beginning of time. I don't actually like to live in the past. I don't like to revisit what happened 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So I'm obviously not a historian. I am not studying history. I am living in the present. And I don't judge anyone who is, because that old expression, history repeats itself. But Mariska, what would you say to someone who came to meet with you and shared with you that during the course of their work, they are unhappy with a lot of things that they see, maybe with their coworkers or in their circle, and they don't say anything because they don't want to open the door to the skeletons?
Well, I would first ask them, what's the impact that is having on you? Because evidently, remember at the beginning of this conversation, we said we want to conserve energy. And it might be that we perceive this conversation, potential conversation that we are going to have. And this is a perception. We don't know for sure. We have a perception that the conversation that we might need to have with our colleagues so that we can get into a place where it is better for us to work in will take too much energy. It's a perception. We don't know. We can also, as you said, Dr. Jacalyn, choose whether we want to open that door and let all the skeletons fall on top of us, or close the door and go, you know what? I have learned the lessons that I needed to learn from said skeletons. I don't need to open the door. They are buried 9 feet under, so they can decompose at their own gentle rate, and I don't have to worry about them anymore. So it's all about what we are almost anticipating. What's the thing that we are anticipating and making up in our minds? So we are now taking some of our past experiences that we might have had or might have seen others have, and then we are projecting them into the future, and now we are feeling stuck. Like, well, yeah, you have 2 pieces that's pulling on you. You are in the center and you have past and present things that's pulling on you, and the only thing that's making them pull is your own brain, because nobody else is doing it for you. It's just you. So firstly, what's the impact on us? Well, if I think about that situation, it feels really tense for me personally inside of myself. And if I have that feeling, right, we also emit emotions all the time. You never stop. So if I have that feeling while I am with my co-workers, they will pick up on something's wrong, which means now they start to walk on eggshells. It feels uncomfortable. They don't really want to be in the room with me because it's a bit scary. I don't know when this person's going to explode, because that might be what they're expecting, right? So if we can step out of that, remember, energy conservation, it's most probably a pattern we picked up somewhere and we are just running the same pattern over and over. It makes more sense for us to evaluate what it's doing to us and then going, okay, I don't like what it's doing to me. How might I approach this maybe in a little bit of a different way so that it has a more generative outcome? And when I'm saying generative, it is life-giving, because currently the experience that I have is not life-giving. It feels a little bit more like stepping closer to death, which is not so good. I might become one of those skeletons in the ground. And that might be something that I would keep in mind when I have these situations where I don't want to speak up, don't want to address something, because I think I have a short-term gain, but in the meantime, I have a long-term drain. Whereas if I'm going to address it, I might have a short-term drain, because now I have to have the conversation with this other person, and I can still have it in a way where it's generative. And then I will have a long-term gain, because the relationship will only get better from there. And we will all know where we stand. I might be doing stuff that the other person doesn't appreciate. And I don't even know it yet because we never had the conversation. So that's why I would go with that one. How about you, Dr. Jacalyn?
I really like that drain brain. That it makes a lot of sense. And I'm an advocate for peace. I'm a peace ambassador. And one thing that I really feel like, especially now, I'm going to be 63 next month. Hello. Anyway, I really feel like peace is one of the most important concepts for me. And I want to be in a peaceful state of mind. And so that being said, I also feel that not everyone that we have in our lives or that we encounter has earned the right to have access with us. And that's not from a place of ego. That's from a place of setting boundaries. So when we have no standards, we will just give all of our time away. And at the end of the week, we're kind of like, wow, I didn't even get anything accomplished. I heard a lot of horror stories and I had a lot of arguments, but I wasn't very productive. And so I feel like standard setting starts with us, with creating boundaries of what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept. And if a person wants to be coming from a place of peace, which I really feel like the older we get, the more that's important. Instead of being right, instead of being in control, it's like, no, I'm living a peaceful life. We don't have to explain ourselves. And what I've witnessed is sometimes people will not just explain themselves, they'll over-explain. They'll go over and over. They'll just keep defending themselves. And I just shake my head and say, why? Why are you doing this? And that's a standard that you're setting, basically saying, you know what, when something happens, I will be the one who will step up and just make a lot of excuses and keep explaining them away. And the other person gets to know that. And it's kind of like a seesaw of power. And so to me, I want to step away from that power struggle and just be in a place of peace.
If only the whole planet could be there. But we are not, as you said, all there yet, right? We are working towards it. So, and sometimes it takes a bit longer for some than others.
Well, people have to realize too, because not everyone is at the stage. I know Dr. Chan, our longtime friend here on the platform, who's since retired, she would talk about the fact that not everyone has awakened or not everyone is coming out of the 3D world. And I know a lot of people are like, woo, what is that? But I really actually believe it's true. I do believe that there can come a point, if you're open to it, where it's not just about collecting material items or being in a power struggle or being in control. It really is about finding peace and giving back and helping other people. And I think once a person moves into that state of being, that state of mind, things really start to change. And that's when I think you don't just walk by things or leave things unattended to, because that does become the norm. And then you have to go undo it and then go back into that 3D world. What do you think?
Yes, it is really around our state of beingness, I think. For me in any case, the standards that we set would be in alignment with the standard that we have set for ourselves of being. And if we are being in a place of peacefulness, of being, I want to almost say, at one with the rest of the universe, humanity, everything around us, there's different standards that we will have than when we are in a space of competition. Even when that space of competition is only competition with ourselves, that doesn't really matter. It's still that tension that we feel. So understanding how our state might impact the type of boundaries we set, the type of experiences we have. And to me, it reminds me a little bit of I think it is in quantum physics, where they have found that the observer influences or impacts the observed. And when you think about it for yourself, in your own life, you are both the person doing the observation of your life, and you are being observed, right? So you're observing your life and you are your life. So we don't change our life by being inside of life. We can only change it by changing the observer. So internally, we need to change. We need to change our state of being. And then the state around us starts to shift. And there's a whole body of work on that. You can go to Joe Dispenza, I think it is. His website has a whole bunch of stuff on it, research that they've done. So just thinking about how we interact with ourselves and others and seeing what that influence can change the type of standards that we are setting, and then also change the things that we may or may not walk past and the things that we may or may not be accepting. And to your point, Dr. Jacalyn, peace is I don't know whether as a species we would get there before the day that I leave this planet for this time around, but it is something to work towards. And the more we put attention to working towards it, it's like a KPI, the better we will get to becoming more peaceful as an individual and as a species. Well, that's my thoughts in any case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. So you and I get the pleasure of working together for 5-6 years now. And during that time, we have been in the company of other people who are also working on themselves. But there are times when we're not being hired by someone, and we may encounter someone in a personal or professional level who is not working on themselves. And so that can be a real test to our ability to control our emotions and find a solution. So can you think of any time, you don't have to be specific, but where someone really challenged you, they really got your back up and you came out swinging?
And I came out swinging. Ooh,
metaphorically speaking.
I think for me, and most probably most people, our family dynamics, well, for me in any case, that's one of the places where, in all likelihood, I might not be my best self. Especially, family has this innate, wonderful ability to remind us that we have buttons, and they also have the ability to push them really well. So that might be potentially one area that I can think of that would be a place where it is a bit more tricky. And I think for me, the other places, so it reminded me of an experience that I read in a book a while back about this person. They went to a monastery and they lived with monks for quite a few years, and they learned specific techniques and mindfulness and all the wonderful things that you can potentially do and how to get into contact with yourself. And then after that, the same person went back into society, and they found it really, even though they had the techniques, they knew exactly what to do, they found it really difficult to stick to it and to stay centered and to stay grounded. And I think for me, one of the things that happens, and that's something, even when I think about working with my leaders, that's an ability that we need to work out for ourselves. And that's what we do a lot in coaching, is finding ways to integrate this great learning, this new pattern that we have formed, into other places in our life. Because in those places in our life, we have formed other patterns that may or may not be serving us. And even when we have one that is really good, right, it does not mean that it will always just translate to this situation where I have grown up in a different way. like, for instance, with family or in specific work type situations or in conflict conversations, because we have built a highway already in that specific area. So if I'm not in a conflict situation, I might be the most zen person on the planet. But as soon as you put me in the conflict situation, because I don't know how to translate my zenness into that situation, I might become a bit of a monster. And that goes for everyone. So we need to reteach ourselves how to bring these things into life in general. And I have to say, Dr. Jacalyn, I think that for me, speaking of places where I might have gone out swinging, instead of using my zenness that I know is in there, family comes to mind. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's really anyone who knows how to stick the knife in and twist, and especially when there are issues that you thought were resolved and yet they come up over and over and over again, and those statements of, remember when you said this, remember when you did that. And after we've worked on ourselves, it's kind of like, no, I actually don't remember because I don't go back there. But yet there's some people who want to live in the past, and we could do a whole show just on that. But I really think part of what I want to bring in to this topic is that when we stop looking for external approval and external validation, we are able to be comfortable with the standards and with the boundaries that we set, because we're not looking for people to weigh in and go, oh yeah, that's fantastic, thank you so much. Typically, people will be upset about the boundaries. They'll be upset that their access to you has changed. And a typical example, and I think this happens in business, when you first start out in business, you may be very much available. People might just call you and you pick up the phone and you drop everything. But as you progress in your business, you don't have time for that, because those spontaneous calls or emails or texts or WhatsApps or whatever, they can pull you away from what it is that you're doing. So your standards may change in that, well, if you want to meet with me, I'm sorry, but you have to set an appointment. And people get upset about that. But it's not like you're trying to do anything to hurt someone. You're trying to say, you know what, I really want to give you my attention, but I can't do it now. And so for people who are in an emotional state, and you actually did a Talking Heads about all of the emotions, this was years ago, I think, about and the negative emotions and whatnot, that they'll go into that negative area, and sometimes they'll even jump up and down. I want to talk to you now. I need to discuss this now. And so if you accept that, then people will continue to do that and think that that's okay with you. So what would you like to leave our audience with today on this topic? Maybe somebody who's going through it right now and thinking, I feel like I'm trapped. I'm not sure what to do. And obviously it can't be resolved in a few sentences, but where's a good place to start?
Well, I would say first, just do a little bit of an evaluation for yourself. What standards are you walking past? One, what's the standards, right? Just get clarity on that. What's the standards? What is it that you actually want to have? So whether it's boundaries, whether it is standards of living, whatever it is, what's your standard? One. And then two, how are you actually interacting with this thing? How often are you walking past it? Are you just accepting it, not accepting it? What's happening with it? So that you have a clear view as to how you are living the thing. And then once you have that, you can start working on it. But I think for a lot of us, I mean, even if you apply this to exercise, diet, you can apply to anything. A lot of the times we don't even know what's the status quo at the moment. We just know that it's comfortable, right? Great, it's comfortable. But what actually is it? How much of what am I putting into my body if I'm looking at a diet thing? How much, if any, exercise am I doing, right? I might know a thumb suck, but I don't have accurate values. And remember what Dr. Jacalyn said earlier about our attention. I can't put my attention on something and get value out of it if I don't have accurate data to it. So first get that sorted out, and then we can start and see how do we want to set things up from there. How about you, Dr. Jacalyn? What would you leave people with?
I think the acknowledgement of what's going on, if you find that you are constantly in a state of feeling empty, lost, isolated, alone, start to look at what it is that you do have in your life that brings you joy, and what are the things where you can set boundaries. And then when you look in the mirror, do you actually like what you see? Or are you continuously saying how much you hate everything? I like to turn it the other way and look at all the positive things that I have. And then all of a sudden those negative things don't seem to really matter as much. But look at where there's dysfunction in your life and what is your role in it, because we always play some role. And sometimes that role can be that we keep putting up with things that are making us unhappy. So change it. You actually get a choice. And so that's a big deal compared to robots, for example, right? They're programmed to do certain things, or if they go out on their own at some point, we're not going to talk about that now. But we as humans do get to make choices. So the standards that you're walking past are the standards that you're accepting. So maybe stop and not go forward and address it and do something about it.
Well, between that, I am sure our listeners will find some ways of not walking past these standards anymore, hopefully.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a live television broadcast that you can watch on our YouTube channels. I will bring up the graphic. We have 2 YouTube channels. They are USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. The show is being streamed there live. And starting at the top of the hour, it will be on E360 TV. We'll go to LG, Samsung, Roku, Android devices, Amazon Fire, and a bunch of other places. And of course, we're on social media. So wherever you're watching, please do follow us, like us, tell other people about us, and subscribe. Mariska, we're going to bring up your website and also your LinkedIn. Tell people more about it.
So if you would like to work with me in any of the places that you are leading, this might be formal leadership or informal leadership, because we also lead our own life. You are more than welcome to do so. You can get a hold of me via my website. So as you can see, my website is journeytodiscover.com. So the 2 is a number 2. You can also get hold of me via the little information page or contact me page at the bottom that Dr. Jacalyn is showing. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. And you can also email me. So my email is Mariska, Mariska, at journey, journey, 2, the number 2, discover, discover.com. So that is website-wise how you can get hold of me, as well as on my email. Alternatively, if you are more a social media type of person and you enjoy social media, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best platform to get me on. And there, I'm Mariska Dupria, and you can basically send me a direct message from LinkedIn, and we can start our conversation. Whether you are stepping into leadership or you are stepping up in your leadership journey, I would love to hear where you are at and how we can make sure that you also become the leader that you wish you had.
Thank you so much, Mariska. And this show will also be available as a podcast starting tomorrow on all the major podcast platforms. So I wish you a beautiful beginning of your day there in Australia, and I hope that you enjoy the lovely weather.
Oh, I will definitely do so. It is going to be a nice, balmy 30 degrees C. I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit.
I don't know either. It seems pretty high, though. But that's terrific. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Indeed. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. Please do subscribe to our channels and feel free to leave comments. We'd love to hear from you. If there's a topic that you would like us to discuss, please do let us know. And if you're interested in being a guest on any of our shows, you can go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. And now we're going over to our sponsors, and we will see you for our next program. Take care. Bye for now. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover Holy but Harmful: The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives by Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.